And joining us for more and to further unpack this, we are joined live by Botsang Moloya, who is a political analyst, live in our studio, live in Midrand. We are also joined by Professor Barry Hanyane, who is also a political analyst, but he joins us via the phone line. A very good evening to the both of you. Thank you so much for your time and for joining us here at ANN 7. Thank you. Firstly, let's talk about the fact that Speaker Baleka Mbete is likely to announce her decision on to use or not to use the secret ballot in the motion of no confidence in President Jacob Zuma on Tuesday. Any expectations?
Well, good evening to you and good evening to the ANN 7 viewers. What we should actually firstly put in front is that the Speaker of Parliament, in terms of the Constitution and the court ruling, she is not bound by any time. There was no time set by the Constitutional Court on when or up to and before which date she should pronounce such. However, politicians as well as normal citizens would have naturally expected that she announces it, whether it's going to be a secret ballot vote or not, prior to the date that has been set, which is the 8th of August, Tuesday, the 8th of August 2017. That is a natural expectation. That is what people would have logically expected the Speaker of Parliament to do, but it is not binding, it is not forced or enforced by any court of law or the constitution of the country that the Speaker of Parliament should do that. However, in my view, I think the Speaker of Parliament may tomorrow pronounce that the vote on Tuesday will be of a secret ballot or not. And that's what we should be discussing at the moment. Your next question may be whether she's going to declare it a secret ballot or not. I don't think she will do that. And I've got 3 reasons why I don't think the Speaker of Parliament will declare the vote to be a secret. If you looked at the Constitutional Court ruling, they had actually thrown back the Constitution back to the Speaker of Parliament to say, but according to the Constitution of the country, it is your prerogative to can make that decision. That's one expectation. The second expectation is the Constitutional Court had categorically stated that it should be based when exceptional circumstances come where the nation will resort to the concord. Then there should be exceptional reasons, overwhelming reasons why the Speaker of Parliament will depart from a normal practice. At this moment where I am sitting as an analyst, I don't think there's any reasons that has been presented in front of the Speaker of Parliament to can depart from a constitutional duty of an open vote in the National Assembly instead of as opposed to the secret vote. I haven't come across any compelling reasons that would have convinced the Speaker of Parliament. But thirdly, whether we like it or not, the democracy in South Africa is based on party politics. And the Speaker of Parliament, as much as he's supposed to be independent Speaker of Parliament elected by Parliament to represent the nation, she still belongs to the ruling African National Congress. She is still a member of the African National Congress. I do not think logically or in any other way that a member of a political party in a constituent democracy will go and conduct him or herself contrary to the policy position of the party that had deployed him or her into Parliament. So based on that, I don't think the Speaker of Parliament will go for a secret vote. We may come later in our discussion whether if it becomes secret, is it risky for the ANC or not? But I'll leave it to that part. But at the moment, I don't think the Speaker of Parliament will go for a secret vote. Based on what I've said, I also think she will announce tomorrow in order to take care of the needs and the feelings of the population and the media and all the opposition parties. She's not compelled to, but she will do it. And therefore, the country will on Tuesday morning wake up and go to a motion of no confidence vote in Parliament. And in my view, the status quo will remain the same.
Now, let's turn to Professor Barry Hanyane, who's also a political analyst on the phone line. We've heard from Mr. Moloya stating 3 reasons as to why he believes that the National Speaker of Parliament will not allow the vote to be taken in a secret ballot. What are your expectations? Do you think the vote will be done in secret, or do you think rather Baleka Mbete will choose the vote to be done through a secret ballot or in an open vote?
Well, good evening, dear. Good evening to Mr. Botsang there, and good evening to your viewers. It's a tough situation to call. Generally speaking, I wouldn't like to be in her shoes at the moment. One, let us understand who the Speaker of Parliament is. One, she's the chairperson of the ANC. Two, she's the Speaker of the Parliament, in no particular order, by the way. And of course, she has ambitions as well to become the president of the country. So the question then comes is, how will she manage to navigate these treacherous waters, if you want to call them that way, and make sure that at the end of the day, she satisfies all the requirements given the three areas that I've mentioned. So quite frankly, I wouldn't like to be in her position trying to advance certain interests over others. Whether tomorrow's announcement will favor a secret ballot or not, I'd like to believe that the opposition parties, some of them, not all, have even resolved the fact that come what may, it is important that some kind of voting should take place. But again, let us not forget that the Constitutional Court would expect her to provide some measure of rationality in whatever decision she arrives at, which will satisfy not only the Constitutional Court, but also the South African populace in respect to this issue.
Now, earlier, Mr. Maloya, who is live in our studio, he stated that the National Speaker is not bound by time at all. However, the DA has called Baleka Mbete reckless in leaving this decision to the last moment to announce her decision. Do you foresee this as being reckless, or should she have made this announcement earlier? And also, how would this announcement, if made earlier, be treated by opposition parties, if it had any effect at all?
Right. Well, delaying it favors obviously the ANC, of which she's a member of, and in this instance hold a very high ranking profile, that of being the chairperson of the party itself. So in a sense, she probably did consult key members of the organization, and there was some measure of consensus to say this is how we would, expect you to do things in favor of the organization and not necessarily the constitutional requirement which she must also abide by. So in a sense, it could be playing to the favor of the ANC, putting party politics first before necessarily the constitutional requirements as set out by the Constitutional Court.
Now let's go back to our in-studio guest. The MK-MVA initially welcomed this decision by the Constitutional Court. You know, the fact that National Speaker Baleka Mbete has the decision and the prerogative, as you stated earlier, on to whether the vote will be held in secret or not. However, they criticized the Constitutional Court as they said they tried to goad or direct her decision. Do you share the same sentiment? Do you feel the Constitutional Court tried to encourage National Speaker Baleka Mbete to announce that the decision will be that the vote will be made in a secret ballot?
No, I don't think so. You know, I would like to differ with the MK-MVA in this instance. The Constitutional Court actually, if I was a member of the ANC, I would have welcomed that decision. When people celebrated during the decision of the Constitutional Court, I was in this studio, I was on this platform, and I said, I don't know why the opposition is celebrating this decision. Because what the Constitutional Court did is they just reiterated and emphasized what the Constitution prescribes to say the Speaker of Parliament is entitled. It is within her duties and constitutional powers to make such a decision. They didn't do anything extraordinary. They didn't put a time frame. They didn't dictate to the Speaker of Parliament how she should decide. They just said, you know what, when Judge or Chief Justice Mogoeng read the decision of the Constitutional Court, she just said, but it is well, he just said, it is well within the prescripts of the Constitution that the Speaker of Parliament must make a decision and a ruling in this instance. Although he went further and he said, or he read the conditions on where the Speaker of Parliament may make or arrive at a different decision. In other words, if the Speaker of Parliament feels that it is necessary to protect MPs, and MPs as a whole, not ANC MPs, Member of Parliament, all 400 of them as a whole, to be protected to go on a secret ballot. And I've said earlier on, I have not come across any particular reason why MPs will want to go on a secret vote. And I don't think South Africans should get excited and focus on a secret vote come Tuesday, because in my view that's not going to happen. Even if it happens, I do not see MPs of the ruling party not touring the party line and voting against their own leader. I don't see that happening. You may have about 6 or 12 of them who are dissatisfied, who are prepared to bend. But the majority of 223 or 232, and it is not only, there's another part, it is not all opposition parties in the National Assembly who want Jacob Zuma to go. There are political parties with 1 or 2 MPs. You know, I can talk of the Godi's party. He's got 1 seat. I can talk of the PAC. I don't think organizations and former liberation movements like PAC will go against the African National Congress, even if they differ ideologically, to vote with parties like the DA to remove the sitting president, you know, in the country, to remove him out of power. But one thing that I've said 3 months back already, and it's coming to haunt people today. I saw it on the media today. We should not put a blind eye on the fact that this is not the same situation we had in 2007 when President Thabo Mbeki was removed. President Thabo Mbeki was removed from power by the party that deployed him into power. Now, what the opposition is trying to do today is to use the constitutional processes to remove a sitting president out of power. When you do that, there are consequences. And one of the consequences of removing a sitting president out of power is if the motion of no confidence succeed on Tuesday, cabinet will have to dissolve. We are talking about more than 30 MPs or cabinet ministers. We'll have to dissolve cabinet, and those cabinet ministers will have to step down. So between Tuesday and the day a new cabinet will be instilled into this country, we will not have a government. I don't think those cabinet ministers, those more than 200 ANC MPs, will throw the country into disrepute, into turmoil, into a situation whereby we don't have a sitting government. They will end up like Brazil, will end up like Venezuela, will end up like all other countries whereby for a certain period of time, whereby it's 1 week or it's 3 months or 1 month, we will not have a government because some political parties that did not want a sitting head of state. As a nation, I think South Africans should look at the situation whereby are we ready as a nation to can be without government for a certain period? And I don't think ANC MPs, particularly ANC's cabinet ministers, will want to be outside jobs, will want to see the government without a pilot, will want to see a government being on a suspended mode whereby there's no governance. You know, we are having crisis in the country regarding SOEs at the moment. Are we saying we are prepared to spend 1 week without management of those SOEs in terms of ministers? And I don't see that happening. I think the nation must brace itself. The EFF has already given an indication that if this doesn't go their way, they will go to court. I think they're reading the situation.
Indeed, and
to
the
say,
UDM.
Yes. And the UDM. I think they've already read the situation that it is not going to happen. The SACP has come out. You know, they're actually sending conflicting messages. SACP is the most confusing organization, as well as us as analysts.
Let's talk about the SACP.
Yeah,
they're going to march tomorrow to Parliament in order to recall the president. However, they haven't necessarily said that in the vote of no confidence motion, they haven't necessarily stated what their stand is, whether they will be going with these opposition parties, the DA, and vote for the recall of the president, or whether they will stick with their alliance partner, the ANC. What are your thoughts there?
Well, like I was about to say, the SACP is actually more confusing to the African National Congress alliance than the opposition. One cannot read whether they're with the opposition, they're on their own, or they're with the ruling party on the alliance. One, they issued an official statement on Friday to say they are not going to go into bed with anybody who wants to destabilize the ANC. Then they are going into the march tomorrow with that anybody, and they are silent about their party official position. Yes, individual leaders of the SACP have come out and say Jacob Zuma must go. But we do not have an official party organizational position of the SACP to say where they are going. And that is what the problem is. But they will be marching tomorrow. Marches don't have much effect in South African politics. We saw 3 months back the Save South Africa campaign, almost 300,000 people were up in arms, the social media, to say Zuma must go. What happened to that? It collapsed. So the march tomorrow, I don't think it will have a significant value, but what I think it does is this knocking on Zuma's doors. The momentum is increasing. They are spreading it abroad to say more and more. Now they've drawn in the churches, the civil movements, and organizations in South Africa are very weak. They died in the 80s. They don't have significant value because when you look at Sanko, the ANC swallowed Sanko. So we don't have a civil movement organization in South Africa that is powerful, that can challenge politics. But that's why all political role players like the former UDF leaders, the church organizations like South African Council of Churches, they are now resorting to religious organizations and foundations to try and bring the civil movement in. I think it is too close. It may have a significant impact a year or two from now, but at the moment, it is just too close to can make a significant impact on South African politics. I don't think the march tomorrow will influence ANC MPs because at the moment, it is not the nation that is going to make a decision. It is the 223 ANC MPs, of which I personally think less than 23 of them, you need 201 to say Zuma must go. So I don't think more than 23 ANC MPs. What I think is going to happen, which the ANC is putting a blind eye on, is that most of their MPs on Tuesday, I'll tell you what is going to happen. They're going to abstain, they will be sick, they will apply for leave, and most of them will not be there. Those who want Zuma to go, they are not going to go to Parliament and say Zuma must go. They are going to abstain from voting, and the abstinence is not going to happen inside the assembly. They will not sit there and refuse to vote. They will abstain going to the National Assembly on Tuesday.
And ultimately, what will that lead to?
And ultimately, what it happens is their votes will not be counted because they would have applied for leave of absence. So they cannot be replaced on that particular day.
So therefore, they wouldn't be deemed as voting outside of the party?
No, they will not be deemed voting outside the party.
Their vote just will not be
absolutely, their vote will not count. That's what. But what I'm saying is the number of those who will conduct themselves in that behavior is very little. They will be boosted by about 6 or 8 that are going to definitely vote against Jacob Zuma. We have about 6 or 8 that we are aware that they are going to vote against Jacob Zuma. But those who are going to abstain, it will not make any impact. We are going to sleep on Tuesday evening. Jacob Zuma will still be the president of this country, and the opposition will have to go back to court. We know that the EFF, the UDM, are going back to court. That's very clear. They've made it clear that they are going back to court. And they have 2 reasons to go back to court. One, they're going to complain that Baleka Mbete, the Speaker of Parliament, has delayed in making a decision. They will lose that one because the court will say there was no time frame. 2, they will go back to court and say they think it should have been a secret vote because of the charges that the ANC has imposed on 1 or 2 of their MPs at the moment.
Now let's speak further on that, Professor Barry Hanyane, who's still on the phone line there. Speaking about that, the UDM and the EFF have indicated that they will go to court if they don't regard Mbete's decision as being based on what they call rational reasons. So if she decides for the vote to be open, would they have a case at all, in your opinion? As I'm sure they will claim that she acted irrationally and will ultimately hope to have a decision overturned. What do you think about this?
Well, there's a difficulty there in that we don't actually have a consensus as to the meaning of what is rational. So in a sense, the presumption here is that whatever is rational should actually satisfy all parties concerned, and that can easily be deemed as rational. So again, it will be up to the courts to draw that line. What is the difference between irrational conduct or thinking, as well as what is rational conduct and thinking? And that's somewhat of a burden on the part of our judicial system. But this is how democracies work. Democracies are strengthened by this kind of challenges and problems whether they are political in nature or whether they are technical in nature, they basically serve themselves as some measure of a litmus test to determine whether indeed our democracy is consolidating or not.
And then lastly, Professor, this will be the 8th time a motion of no confidence will be voted upon. All previous attempts have failed. Do you foresee a failure once again, whether it be an open or secret ballot?
Either way, my fear is that some measure of damage to the presidency may very well be observed. One, the whole campaign has taken another level of beginning then to challenge Mr. Zuma's presidency. That in itself will become more conspicuous, and people are going to now begin to shape some measure of public opinion around his legacy, around his leadership, and it will continue to galvanize those who are in the opposition. And I think if you look at what happened yesterday, the claim that indeed more and more individuals and organizations are on board the opposition train will become more visible, and the thinking will be that, 4 or 5 months left for him to leave the ANC presidency. The perception is that he will become more weaker, and it will open up the front door to challenge him for whatever remains of his leadership.
Professor Barry Hanyane, thank you so much for your time here on ANN7 Prime. We really do appreciate it. That was Professor Barry Hanyane, who is a political analyst, as well as our in-studio guest. We really do appreciate your time with Sang Moiloa, who is also a political analyst live in our studio. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.